In this lesson, we're going to explore fluid caching for our 2D containers. All right, I've got lesson 25 opened up here, and I've got just a basic 2D container with a default emitter, and this would work the same with 3D containers. It's just a little faster to demonstrate in a 2D container. And I've just got an emitter down at the bottom that I adjusted some of the settings on this container. If you take a look at my dynamic simulation, I add a little bit of viscosity, a little bit of friction, and if I go down to my contents details, you'll see that density has been tweaked, velocity has been tweaked a little bit, a little swirl. So you can dissect this if you like, but it's pretty basic, nothing fancy, nothing we haven't already covered. I did change the color of the fluid itself, that way you can really see this differently when I apply it to a different container. All right, why would we need caching? Well, on the big picture, if you're going to render this out on a different machine or render it out on a render farm, you're going to need to put a cache together because every frame is going to be possibly rendered on a different machine. Well, let's take a look at why we need that. If I hit rewind and play, you notice that the system knows exactly what frame 123 looks like because it calculated it. It needs frame 123 to calculate 25, and if I scrub, you'll see that it's simulating. The problem is, what if I rewind and another render machine picks up on frame 200? And I just click on 200. Well, that's not what it's supposed to look like. And then what about frame 400? So if I jump back and forth, you notice that I get all kinds of weird artifacting. Okay, and it's because it's trying to calculate all of these different simulations based off that starting frame. So what we want to do is take the actual simulation, which we like, and then bake that out into a file. So what we're going to do is go up to Fluid Encache, and we're going to choose Create New Cache. Now, I already had a cache, so it's going to ask me, do I want to rename it? Do I want to auto-rename it? I'm going to choose Replace Existing. And what it's going to do is go through and start to calculate what this fluid simulation is going to look like. And it's going to generate an individual frame, let me show you those, for each frame that we have in our animation. And that way, as it goes through and generates all of these frames, you'll see that we've got a lot of data that the system is going to generate. So I'll show you how to use that in just a second. All right, I'm going to stop it at around frame 336. So let's just reset this to, we'll say 330. All right, so if I rewind and play, first thing you're going to notice is that it's blazing fast because it's not having to calculate anymore. And if you look, I can scrub. Well, why would this be important? Well, if I've got, let's say, this fluid simulation tied to a lighter object, and that lighter is being flicked on or off by a character, well, I may want to scrub the animation to make sure that the character's thumb is moving correctly, and I won't be able to do that if it's having to simulate every frame. What else is nice is if you go up here, and you can choose to disable all of the caches, so I'll just disable it, and now you'll notice that my scrubbing does not work, but I can try out different parameters and see if that helps. Okay, so I lose that ability. However, all I have to do is re-enable it, and it's good. Now, there's some options here on what else you can do with this. For example, if I choose to delete the cache, and I come down here and I choose Delete Cache option box, there's an option here, instead of deleting the files, you can actually keep the files. What's nice about that is if I hit delete, again, my scrubbing ability is gone, but if I want to bring them back, all I have to do is go up to Fluid Encache, attach existing file. It'll bring up my Lesson 25 folder, and I'll just double check. Yep, there's my 300 frames of data. I'll just grab the first XML, and there it is. Rewind, play, and I'm back to scrubbing at full speed. Okay. What else is nice is let's just take a blank 2D container. I'll just move it over. Now, mind you, this is 100% default. Nothing has been tweaked in here. There's no emitter. But what's nice is if I go up to my Fluid Encache, I can attach that same cache directly to this object. Now you're going to get this artifacting because our resolutions are different. You must have the exact same resolution and size for this to work. So if we take a look at this one, it's 50 by 50, and this one is 40 by 40. So let's change this to 50 and 50, and then rewind, play, and there's our simulation. So really what we're looking at is the particle data, and where is the particle data in the container, and that's what's cached out. So notice in this one I have no emitter, and even in this one, if I was to take the emitter and move it, it has no effect. The simulation is still going to be played back from the cache. So that's kind of nice if you're trying things out. Now, how do we make this one useful? Well, again, just like what we did earlier, we're going to go down to our shading category, and I'm going to start shading this up. I'm going to set my constant to black. I'm going to set my incandescence to density. And then we'll just go into our our opacity input to constant. So let's rewind and play. And there we go. So you can see I've tweaked my colors just a bit to represent what I'm trying to make. And there you go. So we could shift this if we wanted to. And we could try out different colors and different looks, but look how fast I'm able to scrub through as I'm making these tweaks to the color. Now, if I make tweaks to some of the other parameters, I'll have to recache this whole system to make sure that that data gets updated. But that's just a quick and easy look at how to use your caching system to help you out when you're getting ready to render.